in digital transformation. It's going to be a quite interesting panel. My name is Lina Tsaltabasi. I'm going to be the moderator in this panel. I'm the president of the Greek Business Women Association, the vice president of the Mediterranean Confederation, the president of the Balkan Women Coalition, an EU female entrepreneurs ambassador, but most importantly, I'm the woman next door, the woman that is a mother, a daughter, a life partner, and somebody that needs to be part of the digital transformation myself. I feel proud to moderate a panel with so distinguished guests, and especially on a very challenging topic as this is. This panel is all about assisting women of next door to be inclusive parts of our community. And as a next door woman myself, I seek to identify policies to achieve the digital transformation and the digital inclusion. We have 4 panelists that they are online and 1 panelist who I have the honor to have with me here. But we will start with the online communication. I would invite Ms. Alice Achari, General Manager of eBay and for Italy and Spain, to come on board. Can we have the connection with Ms. Achari? In the meantime, we can discuss about how important it is for W20 to have the digital transformation, which is an historic pillar for this section. Our section will analyze the subject of digital inclusion, which is an historic pillar for W20 and G20 in general. At the COVID-19 pandemic, we have hastened the digital transformation dramatically, deepening gender inequalities. In our panel today, we focus on ways to halt the marginalization of girls and women engendered by this disruption and to ensure a just digital transformation where girls and women are fairly, meaningfully, and equally engaged as digital citizens. What are the barriers that women face in different countries to access technology? We are going to analyze it. How can we ensure that women and girls can safely engage in digital society without violence, threats, or violence, or the risk that the digital transformation will replicate, amplify, or increase biases that hinder their full self-determination as individuals? We are going to seek our replies. Is Mrs. Achari available? Yes, hello, Ms. Sakari. Ms. Alice Sakari, General Manager of eBay for Italy and Spain. Ms. Sakari, you are representing a big multinational organization, we all know who eBay is, that connects every day millions of businesses with consumers worldwide. During COVID-19 crisis, all companies had to embrace digital tools to survive this situation. Can you tell us, please, what has been the effect for the eBay and SMEs that sell through the marketplace, and what is your perception on the impact of women-led businesses, which is our main focus in this forum? What are, in your opinion, strategies that successfully support female entrepreneurships in this context? Thank you.
First of all, I wanted to really say good afternoon to everyone and thanks Women20 for having me here in such an important moment of discussion. So as you said,
Io sono
for eBay in Italy, and I am also the proud president of EMEA for Women at eBay, that is a community of inclusion that we have at eBay since 2011, and it's a community led by men and women. We want to progress in and advance in gender balance and equality at eBay. So to answer your question, I would maybe just do a quick step back in what is eBay and what are our core funding values. So eBay is a global marketplace whose purpose is to create economic opportunity for everyone. And 2 of our core values are very interesting for this discussion. So the first one is the empowerment of the community. So in every country where we operate, we want really to create connection, success, and opportunity for everyone, meaning entrepreneurs, small businesses, consumer, consumer seller organizations. So everyone is invited to be part of the success of the marketplace. On the other side, there is diversity and inclusion. Diversity and inclusion means that there cannot be empowerment if we don't include and make everyone part of this success, of this community, and of these stories. So really having a marketplace that is very open and creates opportunity for everyone. In the moment of the pandemic, we have seen that there was, of course, a moment, a situation of crisis, of struggling, and it was also a moment where many of the businesses needed to access quickly and very suddenly into the digital opportunity because there was unfortunately no other ways to do business at that time. So the role that we wanted to play in that specific moment was really to support businesses into access the marketplace and the digital opportunity very quickly. So we wanted to have campaigns of onboarding and training and formation for small businesses who weren't necessarily already ready and connected, and we wanted really to help them in being very quick in the access. On the other hand, similarly for buyers, we wanted to be there for them to let them access safely the goods that they were needing at that time. If we think about women in the marketplace, of course, we have a story of more than 25 years. And in these 25 years, we have organically hosted many women sellers successfully along the years. And we have run surveys to understand what they are looking for, what is the driver for them to have business online. And we also speak with them every day. And speaking with them, we understand that the two drivers that are nudging them into the marketplace are, on one hand, the fact that the digital business and e-commerce more broadly help them to have that flexibility that is very important in the experience of a woman. So having a different or more flexible balance between personal life and also the professional or the business life. Another angle that is interesting is that for many of the women entrepreneurs that work with us, the marketplace is also a chance to have a success in industries where not always people would expect women to run the business. So there are stereotypically business or industries where you would expect they are run by men. So I was speaking the other day, for instance, with a woman who is a very successful seller at eBay, and she has a store since 2006, and she sells parts and accessories for cars. So in that case, she told me it would have been much harder for me to succeed and thrive if it was a physical, an offline business. And of course, this means that there's a long way for us to overcome stereotypes, but also that e-commerce can represent a different kind of opportunity, a facilitator for this kind of entrepreneurs. We also know that what comes organic and naturally can be also pushed further into positive actions. So after we have run last year across all our countries campaigns really to welcome sellers easily and quickly into the digital environment, this year in Italy, for instance, we are also having a program that is not only for sellers, broadly speaking, but for women sellers. So we just launched last week a very exciting, I would say, program that is called E-Women Lab. So this program is a set of positive actions that we have designed after a discussion that we had with our sellers, with university, with stakeholders of the, I would say, women community broadly. And the idea is to assess what's the situation, what entrepreneurs need, And we are also setting in place very specific actions of different kinds. So we start with university education. We are offering a scholarship to students, women and girls that are interested into the subjects of technology, of innovation, of the digital opportunity. We are also offering to women entrepreneurs the opportunity of having training in how to set up a business online within eBay. So a very complete and straight to the point training to succeed and to scale the business. And last but not least, we are also offering mentorship to those girls who are interested in understanding more how the industry works, and they will be able to speak with professionals that can advise or share their experience or just tell them how it works in real life, the experience of working in the tech and digital industry. So of course we just launched this project here in Italy, but we are very excited to see what the results of this experience will be.
E-commerce a friendly environment for women. We just need to analyze the tools and to develop the tools to bring women even closer to digital commerce. Thank you for that, Alicia. So next to me I have a gentleman among so many women, Mr. John Giusti, who is the Chief Regulatory Officer of GSMA. Thank you for being here with us, John. We have 3.8 billion people that are still not connected to the internet, which is quite interesting to figure out this, at this era. At the same time, the COVID-19 pandemic has highlighted the urgency of connected the unconnected, not least women and girls, who remain on average more likely than men to rely exclusively on a mobile to access the internet. What can the mobile industry, well, which you represent, therefore, do to close the digital gender divide? The microphone of Mr. Giusti.
Hopefully I have not disconnected. No, there, okay. It seems to be working. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Lena. Thank you for including me today on the panel. And certainly it's a privilege to be part of the W20 Summit. I mean, as you noted, I think this pandemic has really highlighted just how important connectivity is. And when I say, you know, connectivity, digital connectivity, for most people, that means mobile connectivity. It's been a lifeline, both socially and economically. But as you say, I mean, 49% of the world's population still does not have connectivity to mobile broadband. Now, the interesting thing there is that the majority of those unconnected do actually live where there's mobile broadband coverage, either 3G or 4G. But it's either, you know, due to a lack of digital skills, digital literacy, affordability, or locally relevant content that is keeping them unconnected. So it's not really the infrastructure challenge that so many people make it out to be. There's other aspects of this that we can dive into. And I think, you know, the challenge, of course, here is when we look at the unconnected, women are disproportionately excluded. So I want to tackle your question from two angles. First is what we can do to close the mobile gender gap so that women have the same access and use of mobile services as men. And then also, and I think importantly going forward, how can we drive change so that women participate equally in the digital economy? On the first point, I think it's clear that women in countries around the world would benefit when they have access to connectivity and mobile broadband. They have better access to health information, better financial service access, employment opportunities, and the list goes on. And it is a major concern for mobile operators. Obviously, the mobile industry as a whole, we committed to do what we can to drive the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals, including SDG 5. And digital and financial inclusion of women is a key part of that. But more significantly, really, the long-term sustainability of trying to drive this forward, the gender gap actually represents a huge loss of potential revenues, markets, and a workforce. So what are we at GSMA doing with the mobile industry? For the past decade, we've been running something called the Connected Women Program, where we're partnering with the mobile operators who are located locally, nationally, to accelerate digital and financial inclusion for women in those markets. And just in the past 5 years, we've had partnerships with 40 different operators to accelerate inclusion. This is in Latin America, Asia, Africa. And I'm pleased to say that that program so far has reached and expanded by 40 million the number of women who have access. But we still have a huge amount of work to do. It's a big but. Because according to our most recent Mobile Gender Gap Report, which we launched last month, women in these markets are still 7% less likely than a man to own a mobile phone. This means that 143 million fewer women have access to a phone than a man. And women are also 15% less likely to use the mobile internet. So we continue to work on supporting mobile operators as they try to strategically target how to expand the female market base. But I think one of the things that's important about being here at the W20 is it's about concerted action. That the industry alone cannot close the whole gap. And I said up front, it's not really largely an infrastructure challenge where you can just put money in and the operators can build infrastructure. It is a question of digital skills. It is a question of affordability, and taxation plays a huge role in that, so government roles in taxation. And it's also a question on stimulating development of locally relevant content. So we have to work together. And as we were heading into, coming out of the recommendations of the W20, one thing that I would like to highlight are 4 different recommendations I would make to the G20 governments that we take away from our gender gap report are first, and I think that Minister Giovannini mentioned this concept before, given the importance of the participation in society and economy when it comes to digital access, I would encourage governments to very consciously consider gender equality in digital services when setting their national policies and regulations. It won't happen on its own. You have to be very conscious, I think, to make sure that you're focusing on it. And second, it's a very complicated task, so we need to have the facts. And I would encourage governments to really focus on investing in the collection of gender disaggregated data on mobile access through national surveys or other means, and to share those findings so that we can really make sure we're targeting and reaching the people who need to be reached. Third, I think, and this is very important, is to implement initiatives and policies that expand the usage by women. So this would be things like digital skills training in schools, as well as, of course, lowering mobile-specific taxation. And I think the last recommendation I would make is, in our years of working on trying to close the gender gap with varying degrees of success, it is very clear that the root causes are more complex than they may first appear. So we really need to do this in partnership. I think bringing in the right partners is key. So I guess the advice really is don't try to do it alone. Work with those who know the particular area you're working on. Moving to my second point on moving beyond the access and usage to women's equal participation in the digital economy. I mean, 90% of future jobs will require digital skills. And I know that others on the panel and elsewhere will speak more powerfully to this point than I do. But I encourage all of us to do what we can to build that talent pipeline of girls and young women in STEAM education. As with so much else, no one organization can achieve it. So it has to be in partnership, government, private sector. And that's actually, that idea of partnership is why we at GSMA in 2016 joined forces with others and co-founded Equals. So Equals is the global partnership for digital gender equality. And we did this in partnership with UN Women, with the International Telecommunication Union, I know we have the Secretary General today as well, the ITC, and UN University. And with Equals, the GSMA has pledged to design and provide access to free foundational IT skills and e-mentoring for 1 million women and girls in the next 5 years through her Digital Skills Initiative. And we're doing this in partnership with the ITU, with EY, and with Women's World Wide Web. And while it's still early days, I think the positive takeaway so far is that the data is showing that 95% of workshop participants have improved their understanding of STEAM and possible career paths within it. Now, on a parallel track, we're working closely with UN Women as part of their Generation Equality campaign, and we've made several 5-year commitments designed to promote digital inclusion for women and girls, and I think also very importantly, to increase our own female leadership and representation within our organization. I think that within industry, we need to be setting an example, and we also need to be challenging each other to increase female leadership. Just last year, I know that AT&T was again named to the Bloomberg Gender Equality Index. That's one of our key members, AT&T, recognizing its commitment to gender equality. Another member, Orange, which operates across Europe, Africa, the Middle East, has reaffirmed its strong commitment to greater female representation in technical roles across its operations, and has put initiatives forward, such as the Hello Women program to really drive this forward.
Io sono un po' rauca oggi, quindi...
And last autumn, Alison Kirkby, the CEO of another one of our members, Telia Company, was recognized as one of the 28 most powerful women in the world by Fortune magazine. So I think this leadership really matters. So I think it also falls on the industry to try to lead by example, not just wait for government action. And I think the W20 Summit and the convening of the range of stakeholders that we have here from public, private sectors, NGOs, against the backdrop of the global pandemic we've all been facing, reminds us that really now is the time to focus and work together. I think the future is clearly digital, and by taking actions to bridge the gender gap in access to mobile broadband and to ensure women's equal participation in the digital economy, we can build a more inclusive future together. So thank you.
Thank you very much, John. So we are underlining that the gender gap and the digital gap closer goes hand by hand. If we want to close the gender gap, we have to work also on closing the digital gap for women, because it gives them access to all the social inclusion policies and tools that they need as well. Thank you very much. I would call Mrs. Maria Cristina Gribaldi, who is the CEO of Keyline and President of the Management Committee of Fondazione Musei Civici di Venezia, from another beautiful city here in Italy. Do we have Mrs. Gribaldi with us? Mrs. Gribaldi?
Pronto? Buongiorno, sono Maria Cristina Gribaldi. Buongiorno Lina, mi sentite?
Can you hear me?
Cristina. Maria
Hello,
Cristina.
Maria Cristina.
So, Mrs. Gribaldi, you're a person who shares a career equally in the business sector and on the management of a cultural organization. So you have a wide spectrum of two different economic fields, one of the businesses, one of the organizations. On your point of view, what do you consider to be the barriers that women face in different countries to access technology? What are the strategies we need to develop in order to ensure that women and girls can safely engage in digital society and participate as individuals in the new digital era?
Allora, io parlo nella doppia veste.
I speak with this double hat of being an industry woman. So I'm CEO of a company and chair of the Civic Museum Foundation of Venice.
Naturalmente, quindi ho una visione
I, of course, have a 360-degree vision. The most important thing, the first thing I would like to say, is that we have to break the barriers. The first barriers that we have are cultural ones, educational ones. We cannot think we can change the world if we do not start to educate kids, girls and boys and their parents. When they are in the kindergartens, we cannot think that a woman would enroll or become an engineer rather than an astronaut without this education. So this educational component is very strong, and we need to take charge of this, all of us, in each and every organization. So we have to take actions at the level of the state, the public sphere, parental training as well, and so to realize that at the educational level we have to bridge that gap, that accountability that we all have as parents for the education of a boy or a girl. I have 6 kids, 4 boys and 2 girls, and so that's topic that's very close to me in my life. I've always tried to have them been treated equally in the same way. I am the daughter of a survivor of a concentration field. My dad brought me to the workshop. He has always considered me a person, not a boy or a girl. So there's a way, there has to be a feminine way of being in the industry world, in men's world. Best practices are extremely important, but we have to believe in this, to believe, because we need to have equitable wages, to have equal levels, so we have responsibilities in all organizations. We realized that during this pandemic, also a 90-year-old woman on the other side of the world could order something online. So the model has changed. It's a business model that has been disrupted, and we have to embrace this change, digitalization that allows us to be interconnected, to have real-time insights, have to be made available to everyone. It's extremely important to, especially for girls and little girls, to explain this very important tool. That doesn't mean forgetting everything that allow me this world is analogical, so relations, for example, because relations have to keep on being nurtured, but we have to face ourselves in front of certain situations, be capable of giving the best of ourselves. This allows us to get a greater awareness, of course. We have to be supported. We have seen the difficulties for women during the COVID-19 pandemics to work in smart working, because not all women had a computer or the Wi-Fi. So it's mandatory. It has to become a daily good. There are these tools who are part of our life. In the Civic Museum Foundation, we started 6 years ago adopting the Wi-Fi and then performing all training courses regardless of gender. So that's the same thing that is happening in the industries. We have to give to everyone the same possibility. Another important topic to me is to eliminate gender stereotypes. This is extremely important if we really want to reach certain goals, and if we want to have increasingly persons, I'm not saying men or women, but persons who are accountable for their future, for their self-confidence. And so from this point of view, for us, it is extremely important we ask tools, especially for the new generations. Another issue that I really consider important to get to that goal, because tools are a medium, so digitalizing a museum or a company, it's a channel, it's a tool. So what is needed beforehand, upstream, is to sustain, to support the self-confidence of girls and ladies to believe in themselves, to eliminate the stereotypes in the advertising or reading in the history books. There are writings that are man-written. We, as a Civic Museums of Venice, we have created a platform that is called Venice as a City of Women Inspired. In 2016, Vidal, who created the most wonderful pieces of handmade craft in the world, which was not that visible. So in Venice, that is represented as a woman, we have found all the women that in the craft or art sector were self-affirming themselves. This platform, the first persons who networked with us were South American and in the Silicon Valley. So this is a very important topic, and we have to weave networks and to get best practices to obtain, especially, I reiterate, a spirit of sisterhood that is lacking a lot among women.
cammino che facciamo giorno dopo giorno
So it
in
has
ogni
to be
realtà,
a
in ogni
constant path
nostro
forward, step by step,
paese,
in each
città,
situation, in each
villaggio, azienda,
city or town or
organizzazione, qualsiasi
organization,
cosa,
anything we
dobbiamo
do, we
imparare
have to
come
learn.
abbiamo cambiato modello di business e
As we
di
have
vita con la
changed the business
pandemia,
model through the
dobbiamo
pandemics,
attivare un
we have to
sistema che ci
activate a
porti
system that
davvero
would
di più a
lead
renderci
us
conto di
to better
quanto sia
realize
importante
how
avere
important
a
it
bordo
is
nei
to have
gruppi
on
le
board in
donne.
groups
Le
women.
donne nei gruppi
Women
di lavoro
in the
fanno la
working groups
differenza
make the
perché le
difference
donne per
because
la
women, for
sopravvivenza hanno
survival,
delle skills che
have
sono
certain skills
diverse,
that are
per lo spirito di
different. Their
sopravvivenza
spirit
della
for
stirpe
survival,
hanno delle skills che sono diverse dagli
they of the
uomini.
offspring, they
Dobbiamo
have
averle
different skills compared
nei
to
nostri
men. So we
gruppi di
have to
lavoro e non
include women
solo
in our
nelle
working
aziende
groups
quotate nei
and not
CDS.
only in
Grazie.
the listed stock exchange companies or in the board of directives. Thank you.
Excellent, Maria Cristina. So we're focusing a lot on role models that we need to provide to young girls and women in order to understand that we need to be part of a sustainable and social inclusive community. Thank you. I will call Mrs. Valerie Sinker, who is the Vice President of Cloud Strategy Initiatives at Splunk. Valerie, thank you for being here with us. Mrs. Singer, we are being in the era of social media and user satisfaction algorithms. Could we use actually the power of the big data in relation to girls and women in tech to empower their career paths in the digital world? And what the role of governments and businesses who can be in that pathway?
Jane, thank you for that phenomenal question. Can you hear me okay? Great. So before I start, congratulations to Italy on the Euro 2020 win. I think that's important to call out. But I'm also thrilled to be such a part of this event, and I've just really enjoyed hearing other perspectives. And your question is a really great one, and I would answer it this way. Closing the gender gap is something that we all know is not easy. But governments and industry, education, and families need to use the data to face that challenge. And so what I mean by that is global economic development is going to depend on both the private sector, education institutions, industry, and families through governmental policy and support to close the gap in skills. So let me get into some data. So if the last 18 months have taught us anything, it's that we are in the era of digital transformation. And we've seen more innovation in the last 18 months in the private sector than we have in the previous 5 years. And so we saw governments, educations, and businesses go online to make sure that citizens stayed connected and that children continued to learn and that people could continue to work. And in the UK, for instance, data from multiple sources, which we call big data, was aggregated to make sure that testing and protective equipment was deployed to the places where it was needed most and where they could then respond quickly to the pandemic. In the US, systems were used to distribute benefits to the unemployed, money to keep businesses running, and all of that relied on digital and cloud services. And around the world, governments became very creative in using social data to find hot areas or areas where people were coming together and putting each other at risk. So this is a very important group of information and different data and technology that are coming together, and we're not going back. So our future and our ability to truly meet the needs of communities around the world is going to require that workers adapt and that digital skills are really developed for more data-driven decision-making. So let's talk a little bit about women. So now the exciting opportunity is that we can engage with the next generation of digitally skilled workers, including women who have not really had the opportunity and have faced a lot of obstacles in obtaining STEM skills. But you can't change what you can't measure. So that's what we're about at Splunk, is looking at the data and understanding how we can measure progress and how we can measure actually where we are in terms of the baseline. So computer science as a profession has one of the smallest pay gaps between males and females in the world, with women earning 94% of what men earn. And while that's super encouraging, let's not applaud until there's a 0% pay gap. But that finding means that there's a need for strengthening computer and digital skills. But in the UK, only 13% of computer science degrees are conferred upon women. In the United States, only 18%. And in Italy, where many of you are sitting today, an average of 3.5% of women worked in computer programming over the last 3 years. So according to the Allen Institute, if this holds, women will not catch up to men with any parity in digital skills for over 100 years. And this is a profound loss for all of us in communities around the world in diversity of thought, in our ability to make data-driven decisions, and in the opportunity for all of us to innovate without boundaries. So this is huge. And the McKinsey Global Institute also says that if we bring women into the workforce at the rates we know we need to, we could add a staggering $28 trillion to the global GDP by 2025. So in my opinion, this is our responsibility, and it's the duty of all of us to reverse this trend. So let's talk a little bit about, before we talk about sociocultural norms and gender biases that keep women out of STEM, let's talk about some of the basics. And Mr. Justy mentioned women are just not connected at the same rates that men are. 327 fewer women have a smartphone and can access the mobile internet worldwide. And the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal 9C, which Mr. Justy also mentioned, calls for significantly increasing access to information and communications tech by 2020, which was last year. So we're clearly behind. So government telcos continue to throttle internet access, and we have to be able to understand policy and allocate more funding for projects like submarine cables and terrestrial backbone networks. And we need to also provide the pathway to new alternatives like satellite-based connectivity that can provide some relief. So I'm very encouraged by GSMA's work that I just heard and the work of the Equals Coalition to bridge this divide. And that's going to be huge for women to be able to continue to connect. So let's turn a little bit to industry, where the demand for digital skills is sky high. But frankly, businesses have been very, very slow to cultivate a community of diversity. And this has created a smaller pipeline of future diverse talent. So Black and Latinx entrepreneurs in the United States find it much harder than white counterparts to get funding for new businesses. In the United States, 1% of Black-owned small businesses get bank loans in their first year versus 7% of white-owned small businesses. And that can be expanded around the world and really kind of generalized, because what that means is that they can tend to hire fewer employees given their smaller scale, and the pipeline for more diverse talent gets smaller. So, these are things that we can correct through government intervention. And here at Splunk, just talking about the industry approach, we're investing in this new generation of workers who build companies and for helping existing businesses to grow and increase their skills proficiency. So we've donated over $100 million over 10 years for software licenses, training, support, education, and volunteerism to support nonprofit organizations and educational institutions to support academic research that then generates social impact. Our Social Ventures Fund is dedicating $150 million to invest in organizations that expand data's business value and have a positive impact on society, including decreasing the gender gap. And as part of our efforts to expand our Million Data Points culture, we give back to organizations that specifically reflect our values of diversity and inclusivity. But we're one company, and we strive to be a model. Other companies need to get on board too. And only then will we make significant strides when they commit to truly invest in employees and in communities around the world to create the pipeline of talent. So I'll briefly touch on my last 2 points, and that's education and families. And the truth is that women are not setting the agenda, and they're not designing the products and services that are shaping our lives, despite the fact that they are consumers of those products and services at a high rate. And so, as I mentioned earlier, women are only getting about 18% of the bachelor's degrees in computer science in the United States. That's the high mark. And in the workplace, their numbers aren't much higher. And so if you look at the educational contributions, campuses like Harvey Med College recognize that first-year computer science classes often weed out their candidates. And the only students remaining at the end of the basic level computer science courses were the men who most likely had been in computer camp or in computer classes since they were young. And so to counterbalance that, Harvey Mudd College computer science professors revamped their entire computer science curriculum to appeal to a more diverse body. And they also counsel people who are in the room who have the confidence in the material to let other people contribute to the discussion. They've created problems that an entire class can relate to, like sound editing Darth Vader's voice. And then as a result of this is a staggering statistic. They're known for their inclusion, and they confer more than half of their computer science and half of their physics degrees to women now. So we can make these changes happen in the educational bodies with which we work and with which we interact. And the last thing I want to point out is the challenge, and the one most overlooked and arguably the toughest, is the role that families play in supporting skills training. So during the pandemic, the number of women who left the workforce was staggering. And I will give you US-based statistics. Women lost 5.4 million jobs during the pandemic, nearly 1 million more jobs than men. And in the US in December 2020 alone, Black, Hispanic, and Asian women accounted for literally all of women's job losses that month, and 154,000 Black women dropped out of the labor force entirely. So, I mean, it makes my heart sick to hear that. So my previous employer, Amazon Web Services, offers a program called AWS Restart. It's a 12-week program that teaches AWS cloud fundamentals for free to help learners succeed in entry-level cloud positions. And they also get job-specific training on building effective frontline support, troubleshooting escalation, and also task automation techniques. And they're designed to provide learners who've maybe never even approached technology before with professional skills, including effective executive communication skills, collaboration, resume writing, and interview coaching. And this is a program that is available worldwide. And so while these programs are helpful, though, there are other impediments to learning. And I talked a little bit about schools closing in the beginning of my talk. But during the pandemic, schools closed at record numbers, and women went home in disproportionate numbers to take care of their children. And women can often be the ones who are least able to afford to train at the expense of taking care of their children and families. So while I was preparing for these comments, I read the story of a woman named Deshante Bowers, and she's the 28-year-old single mother of a 4-year-old daughter. And she had found her pathway out of poverty. And she's an excellent student in a 2-year college, and she had been accepted to a very wonderful university in California when the pandemic hit. And 3 weeks into her first semester, she was forced to drop out when she was told that her daughter was too young to attend preschool online. So she brought her challenge to her family, and she re-enrolled at the University of California at Irvine when her father volunteered to watch her daughter while she's in class. And so the bottom line to that for me is that families must play an active role in supporting women and giving them a leg up so that they can also succeed. So just to kind of close my comments, over the last year, we've become so much more aware of the challenges that women, and particularly women of color, face in overcoming obstacles to learn and apply digital skills. And that awareness comes through understanding the data we have and acting on it. And I'm very hopeful in the signs that I see that private industry, education, and families through government support are looking at the trend lines, they're understanding their importance, and they're taking action on the data. So thank you very much for the time, and I look forward to hearing the other panelists.
Thank you, Valerie. Thanks a lot. Closing, empowering actually women and girls into the digital career is actually giving power to the global economy. Thank you, Valerie, for that. So I will call Mr. Hulin Zhao, Secretary General of ITU. ITU is the International Telecommunication Union. ITU is helping Mr. Zhao is helping enable digital gender equality by mainstreaming gender across different areas such as cybersecurity, digital skills, etc. In your opinion, what are some of the key policy imperatives that can help empower women and girls to fully participate in the digital economy?
Thank you, Lina. Dear friends, dear colleagues, it's my pleasure to be here with you today. As International Gender Campaign, invited by Geneva-based diplomatic groups. So it's my commitment, my responsibility, also my hobby, to join such discussions. Let me begin by thanking the government of Italy and W20 organizers for inviting ITU to be a part of this important discussion. The access, the use, and the enjoyment of cyberspace and related opportunities for women and girls continues to lack in all regions of the world. We already heard a lot from my previous speakers. With 2030 approaching as a deadline for achievement of UN Sustainable Development Goals, including SDG 5, gender equality, unfortunately, the key question before us still remains. How do we enable digital gender equality? And we just heard from Valerie that in those high-tech part, that the women's experts are really a small percentage of the whole expert teams. And actually, this is not the only thing we worried. For me, it's my hobby also. I visit universities when I come to visit our member states. And in some of our member states, for example, in one country in Africa, when I visited the biggest university in that country, and I was told by the rector that over a decade long, there is no single girl student to learn mathematics. So if we don't have this kind of resources in the pipeline, and later on we will not be able to see big changes. So that is also worrying, So in ITU, this is UN Specialized Agent for ICTs. This question lies at the heart of our work as we strive to expand opportunities and remove systematic barriers in this respect. There are several challenges to women in the information society. And if we note that people already enjoy the ICT very much, those are only connected can enjoy this one. And according to ITU, half population not connected yet. So connectivity to our women not connected is one of our also major concerns. And then cyber services and skills, security and privacy on cyber services, innovations, and development of cyber products by women. That is also something that I like to highlight. That I have heard my previous speakers. Nowadays, still the market or technology is dominated by men. But we do have very huge resources of women experts, who can develop, particularly from SMEs. They are, very good understanding the local need, and they have also good knowledge of new technologies. They can develop a very good product to help, access of local community. So that, we are also working on. I'm advised today to focus on three important pillars, in particular that I would like to highlight for your consideration. First, the gathering the right metrics and data, and we heard from previous speakers that is quite important. I agree with them. And secondly, is enabling access to the right digital skills and training. That is also absolutely important. And the last point I'd like to highlight is establishing the right partnerships. So let's start with collecting data. Gathering the right data can go a long way in helping us understand the current state of progress, as well as identify gaps for targeted action. If you don't know the gap, you will not be able to really focus on the gap. In particular, disaggregating this data by gender yields important information for policymakers. At ITU, we capture data on all aspects of the information society, from infrastructure, access, or pricing, to data on ICT use by households and by individuals. Broken down by gender, this data very important. Will help us understand how women are using ICTs and pinpoint where the gaps are narrowing or widening. While data provides a good blueprint for actions, affordable access to the right skill set is key to promote access and participation in the digital world. At ITU, we have partnered with Cisco to establish a network of digital transformation centers in underserved regions to deliver training programs with a focus on serving the needs of women and girls. ITU has also partnered with the Enhanced Integrated Framework to help women build digital capacity in least developed countries, starting with Haiti, Burundi, and Ethiopia. This partnership seeks to use technology to enhance opportunities and empower women economically in the textile, clothing, and agricultural sectors. Yet, any work in this space can only achieve scale and impact through coordinated multi-sectorial partnerships. At ITU, we work closely with our more than 900 sector members, we call it private sector members, partners, and other stakeholders on gender-focused initiatives aimed at supporting the development and empowerment of women and girls. A good example of this type of cooperation is the EQUAS Global Partnership. John from GSM just mentioned. This is a project we have engaged with more than 100 multi-stakeholder partners, synergizing the efforts to bridge the gender digital divide. EQUAS was founded in 2016 by ITU, the University of the United Nations, and UN Women from a UN site, and then GSMA and the International Trade Center. And the GSMA is one of major founder of this, together with the other UN agencies. Another ITU program we are proud of is our International Girls in ICT Day, which we defined as last Thursday of April each year since 2011. And over the last 10 years, this year we just celebrated the 10th anniversary, we already promoted these activities through 160 countries. This is a global effort to encourage girls and young women to consider studying technology and building career in ICT, eventually leading to better representation for women across the tech sector, especially in the leadership positions. Ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, the key factor underpinning any successful policies or programs remains the critical issue of trust. Equitable use and enjoyment of the benefits of ICT by all is only possible if the safety and the security of women and girls online is promoted through training and awareness raising, advocacy, and community development. And in ITU, we developed a project called COP, and the Child Online Protection, which try to help the international community to protect our children online. And here, we also see that the girls are an important part of this program, both from victim side or from, this action side. Additionally, more needs to be done within the field of cybersecurity to promote the skills development and employment opportunities for women and girls, as representation and compensation gaps continue to persist in this space. To tackle this issue, I'm pleased to have launched in ITU the Women in Cyber Mentorship Program in March this year. This program aims to help tackle such systematic barriers in the field of cybersecurity by promoting holistic solutions to the integration of women and girls. As I said recently at the Generation Equality Forum, by holding back half of the world's population, we hold back human progress. If we do not change direction now, it will be very difficult to achieve gender equality or any of the other UN Sustainable Development Goals by the end of this decade. So let us do our utmost to ensure equitable access to digital skills, share beneficial knowledge and data, and harness the power of a partnership to inspire, empower, and support women to play the fullest possible role in digital transformation. Together, we can make gender equality an important part of our efforts to build an equal digital future for all. Of course, with discussion like this, with event like this, we already, already promote this gender equality, and already we have this kind of efforts for years. And although it's little progress have been recorded, but still, that we see some progress. So I would encourage you all to continue work together, continue our efforts to promote gender equality. I thank you very much, Lina.
Thank you a lot, Mr. Zhao. It is important to say that when such a big organization like Kitu, which has colossal members which are part of the global economy, has a special impact and a special program for closing the gender digital gap, we can only be hopeful for the future. At this point, we have more or less finalized this panel. Before having a last question, I would like really to thank and congratulate AIDA, the Italian Business Women Organization, because pulling out an organization in such an environment, in such a period, it was really challenging, and they really did a great job. So AIDA, we congratulate you for the W20 Italy. Well done, ladies. It was really a big, amazing what you did here. Just one closing remark, because we are over the time. I will ask John, first of all, who is sitting next to me, to share with me, John. So we are in a really challenging period, but usually we say that crisis develops opportunities. Is this our opportunity, our momentum to close as much as we can the gender gap?
Absolutely. I think governments for the first time have seen that connectivity touches every part of the economy, every part of the society. So I'm very optimistic, and I think that this summit should move that agenda forward.
Thank you very much, John. So, Mr. Zhao, would you like to tell us also, is this the momentum to close the gender gap?
See the tendency, that everybody talk about equality between women and men, and everybody is working towards that direction. I'm very confident we will achieve that goal. But we wish to have this goal achieved earlier rather than later.
Thank you very much. So, Alicia, last but not least in this question, can you please tell us what we can do to take advantage of this opportunity and not crisis anymore? We will refer it as opportunity to close this gender gap in the digital skills sector.
Yeah, I agree with all, my colleagues have already said. I think the point is to really do positive actions and move forward into some game-changing actions, activities that can really help and stimulate the equal access to resources, to representation, to really to move forward into gender equality. So definitely, it's also good not to just wait for things happen naturally, but to act on them. So all the programs I've heard so far were very interesting and exciting.
Thank you very much. I apologize for not having more time in the system to call back for Maria Cristina and Valerie, who I very much appreciate your participation. Thank you all for being here, and be sure that we are part of the policy making advocacy right now for G20. So let's be strong, let's be together, let's be inclusive, let's be socially innovative. Thank you all for participating.